Ethereum is very special. I do not think that there's the wide open space for a general purpose L1 blockchain. Every single new layer 1 that comes to market at this point has some sort of differentiation, some sort of niche, some sort of advantage, and something as general purpose as Ethereum would have trouble coming to market today without some kind of quality like that.
Amanda Cassatt is the founder of Serotonin, a Web3 product studio, PR, and marketing firm that helps crypto projects build, launch, and grow. She was the former CMO of Consensys, but now her company works on everything from narrative design and brand strategy to go-to-market execution.
Outside of crypto, what's interesting you the most right now?
I don't think there's going to be some nuclear button pushed by AI that's going to kill all the species at once. What I think is going to happen is this subtle kind of extraction and pull of resources out of people, getting closer and closer to that kernel that's going to push you into doing things that aren't in your interest.
Amanda, how are you?
I am well. Thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm good. It's good to see you. We obviously know each other pretty well, so I think this will be a pretty casual, fun conversation. But for people who don't know you, which I think, like you're pretty well established in the space, why did you decide to build Serotonin? Let's start there and then we'll go into other fun topics. But
Sure. That's a good place to start. So my other name is Amanda.eth.
Yes.
And I own that ENS. I booked it for the next 80-something years. I'm hoping that,
you live that
life
long.
life is longer than that, and that my ENS doesn't come up for auction. But in case it does, the reason I did that is because I was one of the first marketing type folks working as part of the Ethereum project. I first learned about Ethereum in 2015. Basically, accidentally went to one of the first ever Ethereum meetups, got my mind blown.
Where was that?
In New York.
Oh.
Dropped everything I was working on in an elegant, gradual, thoughtful way,
Sure,
of course,
yeah.
And joined the circus. And what I felt from those early Ethereum folks was just, wow, I don't have the technical skills yet. I would kind of teach myself to code later, but I didn't have the technical skills to diligence the technology they were talking about, but I could tell that these were the smartest people I'd ever met, all in one room together, all so excited about this one thing. And I realized I had to figure out what that thing was. And once I did, I realized it was going to change everything. And I wanted to be part of that change. And so I threw my hat in the ring, became the first chief marketing officer at Consensys as it was forming and growing up. Ended up leading the team there, that the first Web3 marketing team that brought Ethereum to market, along with things like MetaMask and Infura and Truffle and Gitcoin and a bajillion other things, some of which worked, some of which didn't work, the Consensys brand itself. And we had an incredible team there. I spent about 4 years in that role, and then I realized that a lot of the most interesting things being built in the space were being built outside of the Consensys ecosystem. It took me a while to realize that because there was so much cool stuff inside of Consensys. We'd done more individual product launches, token launches for crypto products than anyone else, and we had the data and the pattern matching and the network and the capabilities to bring those best practices to a wider group of projects. And we really started L1s, L2s, DAOs, DeFi, NFTs, you name it. Over time, we've worked with kind of larger and larger clients and more institutional. But that's really how we got our start.
Yeah. I like what you said in the beginning about kind of how you met all these technical people and you weren't technical yourself at the time, but you were like, I'm going to find a purpose here. Because I understand that very heavily, where it's like, I'm constantly talking to technical people in this space, and yet I cannot code for the life of me.
You should learn. It's really interesting.
Yeah?
Yeah, you should learn about binary and just kind of get the mental model.
Do you feel like it's helped kind of like...
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Okay, interesting. I know you also said you brought Ethereum to market, and I've heard this said by you and your team before, or like, I guess, what Amanda.eth has done.
Yeah.
But I'm so curious because that was like 10 years ago, right?
Yeah, it's old news.
Do you think it's possible
We should stop bringing it up.
No, it's okay. We could bring it up. It's catchy. I like it.
We should move on to something else.
No. Do you think it's possible to do it again? Like in the current market we're in?
Well, first of all, I think the past might be fake, and so I'm skeptical about whether any of that stuff ever happened.
Yeah, it was all a blur.
So
yeah.
No, I mean like literally, right? Like I could have been uploaded into this avatar this morning, and with this narrative, and as far as I know, it's all just no. But so I don't want to ever over focus on the past.
Right.
The reason that story is useful and interesting is because our team has just done the same thing so many times that we've gotten really good at a certain kind of pattern matching. And there is that type of pattern going on today, and we can use those skills that we've developed and what we've learned about the audience and the market to produce similar outcomes today. Not the same. So Ethereum is very special, and that was a very special moment in time. I do not think that there's the wide open space for a general purpose L1 blockchain whose only major feature is enabling tokenization, being programmable. You can't do that anymore without some kind of special other advantage, right? So you get things like Arc and Tempo, and maybe we'll get some other layer 1 blockchains built by big companies, but the thing that they have that's different is they have a beachhead with users because they have built-in distribution.
Yeah.
And so every single new layer 1 that comes to market at this point has some sort of differentiation, some sort of niche, some sort of advantage, and something as general purpose as Ethereum would have trouble coming to market today without some kind of quality like that. That being said, it is possible, and certainly there's a bajillion infrastructures, right? So like VCs paint into the world the things that end up existing a lot of the time, right? And so layer 1 infrastructure, layer 2 infrastructure, there's some of the only crypto project types that have return capital to investors. And so we get a whole bunch of them, right? Because they're potentially high reward, even though they're high risk. And so the world ends up being populated with them.
Yeah. What would you like to see painted into the world? You could interpret that however you want.
Well, I'm kind of a cypherpunk gal.
Yes.
And so I like seeing cypherpunk stuff painted into the world, and it is being. I really like privacy pools. I think a lot of that's pretty interesting. My friend Amin Soleimani built a really cool project, Oxbow, in that vein. I think the tagline is privacy without the terrorists.
Oh my God. Privacy light.
Yeah. Well, it's not light, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
The idea, not just of his project, but of this
general,
kind of
yeah.
type of concept is, can we batch up people's transactions, people that we know are not on any OFAC lists, but batch them up together so that each individual who's transacting has privacy for their transaction, even because they're pooled together with others. And it's a cool idea because it's like, how do we get privacy? We use each other as cover. And that makes sense. And so these words like privacy, it's like, well, privacy from whom? Privacy for what?
Yeah.
So there's not just one size fits all, but I love seeing permissionless projects, non-KYC. So I love seeing our credible neutrality. I love seeing the immutable ledger that's public that everyone can see. And then I love having modular, configurable privacy for people that want it. And I think ultimately this technology is a tool for avoiding authoritarianism. And it ends up being a hedge against these central powers controlling everything about the world, because maybe they can control their technology, their sphere of influence, but there's this open competitor to them that's going to force them to be more open by competing. And if you're a capitalist, and I'm kind of a capitalist, things benefit from competition. Things get better if there's a competitor. And so there's actually a kind of pressure that Bitcoin and Ethereum put on national governments to not overinflate their currency. There's a kind of pressure that these open financial systems put on the closed ones to, okay, you're actually going to lose customers if you behave in X or Y way. And so that's what I really like seeing painted into the world.
Yeah.
That pressure.
I like that. I think on the front of like centralized entities and stuff, though, the average person probably doesn't understand that until they're faced with like a conflict or dilemma on that front, right?
That's okay. Like, I think people really fixate on, well, the user doesn't care if it's this or that's true.
Yeah.
And I don't want to impose on someone who's a chef or an electrician, that they should suddenly start caring about a bunch of back-end software. No, I support division of labor and people doing the things that they're interested in and not forcing everyone to get interested in what I'm interested in.
So rather than maybe like getting interested in this technology, because I agree with you, it's more so like, how do you kind of shape it into a world where that becomes the norm?
Yeah, well, I think companies and institutions actually do care. Because they don't want to have a big problem if all of the data gets exposed, if their centralized database gets hacked, whatever it is.
Right.
And so oftentimes the actual decision maker about these kinds of products is an entity that's a business entity that has risks and that can mitigate those risks by using an open type system. And so that chef and that electrician don't have to learn about it because they're actually being served the better thing by the provider that they're using, and maybe they're not even aware that they're using it, and that's great. So there's that, and then there's the question of just product and marketing, right? Like, how do we reach people and how do we give them a great experience? So let's go back to our chef and our electrician, right? Like, they are using a bank. They are using finance apps. They are paying their taxes. They are doing.
Hopefully.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, they should optimize. They should optimize in whatever way they choose, right? Be thoughtful about it.
But they're contributing and actively a part of society.
They're doing stuff other than their main interest, right? And to the degree that they do that, I would like for them to participate in open, permissionless networks that are power and value accretive to open, permissionless innovation. And I think that's possible to do through user experience and providing a better or similar user experience to the banking that they're doing now. And you look at something like Aave, and this is happening.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I mean, on the marketing front then, like, how do you think about kind of getting people to care about things like this? Because it's so technical in many ways, and I'm sure teams come to you and they're like, we have the best tech for this, and we do this very differently from other people, and you're like, okay, great, but then how do you kind of go and make people care? Because I think a lot of it is like care, right?
Yeah, for sure. I don't really try to make people feel a feeling that they didn't already feel. This phrase, like, in marketing comes up a lot, like, make people do something, get people to do something. I don't love that. What I like is thinking about what people already value and already care about and are already thinking about, and trying to do the matching exercise, kind of like an AMM, but I guess not an automated, right? A narrative market maker, of figuring out, okay, where does this technology itself, how it works, what it does, actually hook into something people care about? And how do we match up that technology, that product, with those people that already care about it? And how do we explain what it is, or market, or use a tagline or whatever to indicate what it is, so that when those people come and interact with it, that it's going to appeal to them. And so it's about helping each of these products put their best foot forward to reach users that would use them if only they knew about them, and if only it were framed in a way that is correct and representative about what it is, but that's going to actually hook into real ideas already in those people's minds of what they care about. Like, I'll give you an example. My boyfriend, who insists that he cannot be marketed to, and that he is not vulnerable to any kind of marketing. He bought a new phone in the airport because they had this booth where they were showing these phones, and they're these like cool kind of like flip phones. They open in the middle, And he walks up to it because they have this picture of them, and he talks to the guy. The guy wasn't like overly trying to market to him, and he's a knowledgeable guy, shows him the features, and he buys the phone. Okay, so
it worked.
So it worked, right?
And he's like, no, it didn't. No, I just needed a phone. Yeah.
And that's what everything should feel like. It should always, what I call it is the no makeup look.
Yeah.
You do not want to feel marketed to, especially these types of audiences, right? Developers, and so you don't want to feel marketed to. No one wants to feel advertised to. No one wants to feel sold a bill of goods.
Yeah.
But you're just wandering around the airport. You have some extra time. you're kind of interested in technology. There's a knowledgeable guy behind a booth. You walk over to him. You start looking at the phone. He shows you there's this cool feature. This screen has this new technology in it.
And suddenly you're paying.
And suddenly you're paying.
Yeah.
And everyone's happy. Everyone walks away from that happy. That's what we want.
You tell him this, and he agreed?
Yeah. I mean,
He was like,
more or less.
I got marketed to.
I don't know.
Okay, that's fair. I think
Doesn't matter. The answer doesn't
yeah.
matter, right?
Right.
Like, if people think they are not susceptible to any kind of story or narrative or any kind of marketing, I guess I would invite them into a next layer of self-awareness about that, perhaps. But
Sure.
it's totally fine
Yeah.
if that is the belief they walk away with.
Yeah.
I don't want the world.
Yeah.
There's this new Cory Doctorow book called Enshittification. And the claim that he makes in the book is using the web is full of like, log into this, like click on this, log out, you've been logged out. And there's so much like crap and it feels so jerky. It's like doing anything online.
Yeah.
He wrote a book about this and the collection of incentives that made things like this. And that's really what we want to avoid. We don't want people to have those sort of jagged feels when they're using your product.
Yeah. I think it's also just like, you don't even want them to feel like you said, like they were marketed to. It's just like, oh, they just wanted it.
Yeah, and
that's like the best feeling.
Using the normal internet is just so irritating with all that. You've been
so
logged out of
tired
this
of it,
app. You've
yeah.
been logged into it. So we have a funny little like thought experiment. Like, imagine Lil Wayne logging into an app. You can't imagine it. You can't imagine like a genuinely kind of like cool person
typing in their email and forgetting their password.
Yeah, exactly. So someone who's cool, kind of in like a sort of a hip hop sort of way, or someone who's like, imagine just another kind of like celebrity. Imagine like Dua Lipa. Like, I just can't imagine her like. I guess she must. I can't imagine her like logging into her app.
No, I know what you mean. I can see like Face ID. That's kind of cool, but otherwise, like.
Yeah, there's something just kind of broken about it.
Yeah. No, I agree. When does it become hard for you then to do what you do?
When does it become hard for me to do
like,
it?
when do
like
you kind
difficult
of
in terms of like the work is very difficult, and so it's hard to make it happen.
I think
emotionally struggle. Like I'm like worried that I'm not creating the right things. And like, what do you mean by hard?
I mean, in the sense that it's not clicking with the audience the way you're trying to match people.
Well, that's okay. That's normal. Like, you try a lot of things, you iterate. There's a certain amount that you can iterate on messaging to try to find sort of messaging market fit. There's kind of a Darwinian process by which words and phrases are selected, and they either kind of connect with people or they don't. You can run some small scale tests on things before you really commit to your kind of core branding or your tagline or anything like that. You can also evolve them over time. The converse of that, like, while you can actually iterate a lot and experiment until something gets a little bit of fit as a narrative or as a story or as a way to introduce people to your product, the flip side is, and this drives me crazy, there will be a new narrative in the market about what people are excited about. Maybe it's like AI agents, maybe it's meme coins, maybe it's stables, whatever it is. And some of these are real, right? But what I can't stand is when a project wants to change its entire positioning every single time.
Believe in something, stay still.
Every single time there's a new thing.
Yeah.
And the analogy I make is, you know the phrase like getting chopped up? Like when you're a trader and you're following every single, the market's gonna go up tomorrow. No, it's not, it's gonna go down, you end up getting chopped up because you're always following the little trends, the little candles up and down, you're always following. So you end up kind of gradually by attrition losing all your money, just like a little bit, because you're always following what the market's doing rather than having firm conviction. And you have to, if you're building a project, you have to have some kind of conviction because you're making an investment in building in a specific direction. And so if you're constantly changing your description of what you are to match, what VCs want to invest in today, you're never gonna win at anything. You're never gonna be number one at anything.
Yeah. It makes me think about a lot of teams that are like building in a specific category for years. It was uncool. Nobody wanted to talk to them. And now all of a sudden they're the leader of that category. And it's like, they didn't just wake up and chase the narrative, to your point. They've been building in that category and suddenly maybe it's trendy now. Maybe they got a really great client, whatever it may be. They're now seen as like the top of the totem pole. Yeah. And a lot of people point to that and be like, oh, well, they did it. It's so easy. And it's like, it's actually not easy when you look at the back end.
Oh, it's not easy. And
at
also
all.
there's a confirmation bias, right? Like you see a project succeed and it looks effortless, but you don't see all the ones that didn't succeed, that were, trying something in that same category.
Or like the years and years and years it took to do this.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And depending on what you're aiming for, what you're trying to build, there's a different amount of investment necessary and a different amount of conviction necessary. Yeah. So like if the infrastructure you need to build is fairly light, then proportionally the amount of conviction you need to have is fairly light, right? Yeah. But if it's something like, I believe that in 10 years, this macro concept will work in this completely different way, and it'll take 10 years of building to build against that, and maybe like $20 million worth of engineering and maybe compute resources, whatever it is, in order to get there, then you have to have conviction and spend those 10 years doing that thing.
Yeah. What's your take on the suitification of this industry?
The whatification?
I just came up with that. Suit. Yeah, suitification. Like not pseudo, suit, jacket, tie of the industry.
You don't seem are you suitified?
I don't know how to answer that question.
It sounds like Sudafed. It sounds like you have to like go behind the counter.
Are you on Sudafed?
Like
hi, this is the ad. No.
Isn't Sudafed an ingredient in SERP?
I think so.
Scissorp?
Yeah. You ever try that?
No.
We're currently on it in this episode.
Well, we are traveling internationally,
I
and
think
there are a lot of little
it.
viruses going around.
Yeah.
But all right, let's see. Suits. Yeah, so there's more institutions finally coming into the space. I think it was a lot of people's dream for a long time to have institutions come into the space. No one knows this story, but the thing that popped Ethereum, if you can use that coarse turn of phrase for something as important and elegant as Ethereum, but the first thing that really drove a lot of price action was February 28th, 2017, and it was the launch of the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance. One of my first kind of big things that I did the marketing and PR for, working on Ethereum, working at Consensys, and it was an announcement that Microsoft, JP Morgan, Santander, Accenture, a whole bunch of firms had all created these working groups to figure out how to build on Ethereum. And the market smooth-brained, Ethereum adopted by, right? That's what happened. That's how it was covered. And it was covered everywhere. And suddenly the ETH price went from, like under $10 up through 20, and then by May of that year through 100. And a lot of the engineers, the builders in the space, very few of them would say that they joined the space because of the EEA announcement, right? Like that isn't what excited them.
All because the bank got it.
Or because of the price action. They found out about it just from kind of the whirlpool, the ripples of coverage about Ethereum. They found out about it because people started talking about it because of this, right? And it's very hard to do attribution. Very hard to figure out exactly why you got into something. When was really the first time I heard about it? A lot of people will say, well, I got into it because I read the white paper. That's usually not true. Usually something else told them about it first, and then maybe they came and read the white paper. So hard to do attribution on this stuff, but suddenly that creates this flywheel for lots of builders to come into the space. And so it's been enterprises the whole time driving this narrative in one way or another. And one of the, I could say even like mistakes that Consensys made early on was building this giant like enterprise sales department before enterprises were really ready. And some of those expenditures and those investments really didn't make sense. And I think in hindsight, lots of people would agree that that was maybe not wrong, but too early. And that's a form of wrong.
Yeah.
And so I think our space has wanted this for so long, and it's been driving narratives and driving the market for so long, which isn't to say that everyone wants it. Obviously, a lot of people don't and didn't then either. But now it's happened and people are complaining.
Everyone always finds a way to complain.
Yeah, and it's great because it means more coverage of Ethereum, more people learn about it, more people come into the ecosystem, more people start building in different ways, and that's great. I think the psychotypes, the personality types that you find at a crypto event, at a crypto conference, they've changed. And I think there's something to mourn there. I personally, I mourn it as a person. I mean, the type of person that I am most interested in interpersonally is that sort of edgy, radical, early adopter kind of person. Someone who, you meet them and you're like, are they brilliant or are they crazy?
Yeah.
I love that kind of person. And now those folks are fewer and farther between at your average crypto event. But that's a natural consequence of the space being de-risked and welcoming in the kinds of people who tend to take less risk with their lives and with their careers. And that's just all part of maturation.
Yeah.
My concerns are not with suitification. My concerns aren't with what people are wearing at events or even the types of people involved in the space. We should welcome everyone. My concerns are, okay, is the technology permissionless? Is it credibly neutral? Is it open source? Can anybody use it? That's what I look at. I don't look at the suits, I look at the KYC.
Yeah, and the values, are they still holding?
Okay, the values, I don't know. Like, at this point, even earlier, the technology needs to be inextricable from its narrative. If the technology itself requires this tribe enforcing values in order to be used in the ways its creators desired, then that's a fail. Because we want so much capital and so many people to come into this space and use these technologies that we cannot possibly use tribal in-group, out-group values enforcement tactics to make them all behave in ways that are in line with whatever we perceive at this point as the original values of Ethereum. No way. So the technology itself, it needs to be inextricable from its narrative. It needs to only be able to do the kinds of things that its early community desires and envisioned. And right now, it's being tested more than ever. And we'll see what happens with those tests. I'll give you an example. Stablecoins. If you asked me 10 years ago whether I thought people were going to pay for stuff in ETH, I would have said yes. And Jeremy Allaire was already building Circle at that point. Like people understood the writing on the wall. I didn't. A lot of people didn't. And they thought that Bitcoin would be used to pay for things. They thought ETH would be used to pay for things. It's ended up being stablecoins. And a lot of early blockchain builders would be shocked that their main product market fit product would be the one that's built for them by the US government, the US dollar, and then they are kind of the sales layer or the distribution layer for that thing. And so those stablecoins are using blockchains as a transport layer and routing around their properties of decentralization. They're using them for the permissionless distribution. Okay, yes, that is a great use case. They are on these open ledgers. Okay, that's a great use case. But they're routing around the decentralization and they're using the blockchain as a transport layer. I think that would surprise a lot of people as being the main product market fit use case, that the product that you've built that's getting the most traction is the one built by the US government. That's wild, right? And so I think a lot of what we're gonna see over the next 5-10 years is this question emerge as the space gets too big to, emotionally coerce anybody over values. Is this technology extricable from its narrative?
Do you think it is?
We'll see. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. And what motivates me every day in the space is just curiosity and seeing how deep the rabbit hole goes. And I have my own perspective on what it should do. And I try to work towards things at Serotonin, and the projects I support and the people I kind of help with things in my own life. I have a picture of how the pieces fit together to contribute to a world that I like more than the current one with less authoritarian top-down control, one that's more playful, one that's more creative, one that has opportunity for people that are smart and hardworking instead of this economic calcification, one that's permissionless, that's open. Right? Like I have my own values here, but what wakes me up every day, what kind of gets me going is this: how deep will the rabbit hole go, and where will we end up?
Yeah, I don't know how to say this eloquently, but it's going to be a compliment. I think you have some of the most interesting thoughts and ideas, and the way you explain things is just so unique.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I guess the question here is where does the curiosity come from and how do you learn all these things? And I think, also on top of this, a lot of people get jaded in this space. And, you know, they see all this like nonsense or slop or like, oh, all of this is a scam. Maybe some things are like legit. And so yet you still have like this very like eloquent opinion and thought on things, right? And
Well,
so like,
thank you.
how do you not, I'm sure maybe you do get jaded and maybe it just doesn't come out, but
Well, I'm jaded about some things. Like I certainly find like some types of people annoying, and like you've seen me like leave things and like go home early from things. Like I don't know, you've seen me like be jaded about all kinds of stuff.
No, but like I guess like the fact that you're still, you know, in this industry operating and like really trying to make something meaningful, you know, when like maybe it's going another direction or sometimes you just feel, I don't know, I don't want to speak for you, so I don't know how you feel.
Well, I think people should do things that they're interested in genuinely. And I think, like, I observe and witness a lot of people kind of trying to shoehorn and stuff their own consciousness into kind of a shape that doesn't fit and trying to get themselves to be interested about something that doesn't genuinely interest them because they think maybe it's remunerative or they think it's high status or whatever it is. And I would just say to everyone, try to find things that really interest you and pursue them because that's going to be the thing that you're best at. So I think that's the answer to that. I think history is really interesting, and I kind of like I almost think of myself like a bit of a historian of the future. Like I'm just like curious about how things go. I'm just genuinely like curious deeply about what happens, and I am trying to make the thing that happens be the open thing as opposed to the closed thing, the kind of individual freedom thing instead of the systemic top-down control thing. And I think even losing is an interesting thing to do and something that could happen. But the interesting thing is to be a participant, right? And to try and to kind of hoist up one's sail every day and see what kind of winds blow through and try to tack towards the things that are that you deem, you know, in line with your interests and your values.
Yeah. Outside of crypto, what's interesting you the most right now?
Well, I just read an article this morning. Do you know what an egregore is?
No. An egregore?
An egregore, E-G-R-E-G-O-R-E.
Nice spelling bee. All right.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm actually interested in spelling. I'm a spelling bee.
There we go. Another big word. No.
So it makes the argument that we're all like neurons in one giant system, and social media is homogenizing our dopamine responses. And so we all are kind of collectively processing certain ideas like neurons in a giant brain, like ants in an ant colony. Like we're all one giant hive mind, and the internet is streamlining all of our thinking. So it's more alike between one person and another.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in ideas like that because I really want to keep my own. I notice it,
you want
right?
your own brain,
Yeah. I've been noticing kind of and this gets to your question also about like how do you keep it different. There's a lot of homogenization happening. There's a lot of flattening. And I don't just mean personally for people and how they express themselves and what they think. There's a lot of flattening there. But, you know, you go to the major cities in the world and on the big shopping street, there's all the same stores.
Yeah.
There's a multi-layered kind of homogenization going on, and I don't love it, and I'm very interested in that and interested in ways to fight it. I'm interested in the way that kind of AI is going to impact people's internality. Whether, you know, if you imagine like one CIA agent all day who's trying to convince you to give him your money, and he's going to learn everything he can about you, and he's going to send you just the right ads, he's willing to spend 99 cents to get your dollar, right? Because then he makes infinite money, all of your money eventually. Imagine that there's infinite CIA agents with infinite compute trying to get the 99 cents on your dollar. I think that's going to be what happens, more or less. And I'm not kind of a Yudkowsky style doomer. I don't think there's going to be some nuclear button pushed by AI that's going to, kill all the species at once. What I think is going to happen is this subtle kind of extraction and pull of resources out of people, and this like mind control from the inside, through your volitional systems, through kind of the core of mimetic desire, getting closer and closer to that kernel, that's going to push you into doing things that aren't in your interests as you'd characterize those interests right now. And so I've been thinking a lot about envelopes and envelope technologies and how we can beat prisoners' dilemmas in order to put an envelope around our minds, to put an envelope around our families and our loved ones, so that it's not just individuality, it's also resources. It's also, how do we protect ourselves, right? Because it's got to be possible. So for every 10-foot fence, there's an 11-foot ladder. Then there's a 12-foot fence, and there's a 13-foot ladder, right? For every privacy technology, there's another surveillance technology, and there's another privacy. So right now, these things are coming in, and they're mining us. There's something mining us, and how do we protect ourselves against that thing that's mining us? And I have some very corny answers that I've kind of come up with. I mean, love is how you beat the prisoner's dilemma, right?
That's
if two people, it's whatever, sue me. But love's how you beat the prisoner's dilemma. It's how you create like an envelope between people so they can withstand these forces pulling them apart, right? Community, religion even, it's got to be things people actually genuinely believe. And so I've just been spending some time thinking about these things, especially as I think about having kids and think about, how people's minds work, how society is working, and these things are all linked up. AI, crypto technology, how we work inside, how we think, who we are. These aren't just random kind of phenomena that exist in different buckets, and this one over here is work, and this one over here is family. It's all the same mush.
And is it such a bad thing that it's all the same mush, though?
No, it's a great thing.
Yeah.
Everything's linked.
Yeah. I think that's nice, though. But in the same vein, I understand what you're saying, and I think on the hive mind front, I think about that all the time. Like that.
How do you keep yourself thinking differently from others?
I think just like staying true to myself and my authenticity.
But is there something there, like at the very core, right? Like Buddhism says, like there's nothing at the very core. It's empty at the very core,
right.
And these are just layers of stories that we create.
And then there's inside, though.
Then there's Judeo-Christian kind of there's a soul, there's some kind of core to it. There's a deep down that you could explore.
I mean, I'm not Christian, but I probably align more with that.
Yeah, that there's some kind of
something
kernel
inside of me, of course.
Kernel,
yeah. I think also like I think perception is like a massive category that people never discuss, and it's like the way I perceive the world and the way I perceive people, ideas, so many different things is so different than everyone else. And you think your perception is shared, but it's typically not, unless it's the hive mind mentality.
How would you characterize your perceptions? Like, what's the way in which your perceptions are the most like differentiated?
I could give like, not maybe differentiate, but it's like I perceive, let's say, individual A a certain way.
Okay,
and I think individual A is amazing. I think they're so smart, they're cool. And then I meet someone who's like, I can't stand individual A. And I'm like, huh. Like, what makes you say that, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, maybe we both have our own opinions. Neither one is like right nor wrong, but we both, hold that. And it's like we have perceived that person or the idea or the world, whatever it may be, in that light. And yeah, I think about that a lot.
Yeah.
Because like my perception is only mine, and like the way someone will perceive this episode is totally up to them.
I think Balaji does an interesting job describing this. There are these kind of physics truths, there's how gravity works, there's Newton's laws, all that, and then there's political truths or social truths. And over here on this end of the spectrum, these things are always true. And on this end, story, right? They're made of story. And everything exists on that kind of spectrum.
Yeah. I think that's kind of nice.
I'll take it.
Sure.
I'll rate this simulation 4.5 out of 5 stars.
Yeah. Another 80 plus years, right? With the ENS. Right? Okay, last thing, Amanda, can you leave us with a piece of advice?
There's only one aptitude test, and it's whether you were able to live the life you wanted.
Do you think you're living the life you wanted?
Oh, yeah.
Love it. Amazing. Amanda, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.